Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah, tonight we're going to talk about this. It's another big challenge. We have to face it. One of the challenges is really this subject of tonight, self-knowledge, and we are going to start by remembering on question 919, the Spirit's book. Kardec asked the question to the spirits, which is the most effective way one person has to improve in this life, grow?
Just one sec. Whoever needs the translation that we have here today, just ask Zito or whoever's on the front that you need a headphone and we'll get it. Vocês precisarem de headphone aqui fora para poder pegar a tradução.
Okay. So this a fundamental question, that Kardec was asking the spirits, which is the most effective way for one person to improve in this life. And we're going to be, of course, talking about what does that mean, improve in this life. But we are here to grow spiritually, and then to resist temptation, the evil temptation, which is all over the place. Wherever we go, we're always tempted to deviate. And then St. Augustine was the one to answer that question. And he said, wise men from the past already said it, which is know yourself. So it's very clear and very direct to the point. So, and if you go back to the question, effective way for us to grow and resist the temptation to deviate, the answer is know yourself. And why is that? So that's what we're trying to do tonight, understand this so fundamental thing, which is, if I know myself, what if I don't? And those are the things we hope we're going to convey to you tonight. First of all, I went to find out what the philosophers, or how they would define self-knowledge. And what I found out in this Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the following: in philosophy, self-knowledge refers to knowledge of one's own sensations, thoughts, beliefs, and mental states. So that's all what I found from the philosophers, and to each I'm taking the liberty to add. From our standpoint, we are spiritists, and we are here to learn about the spiritual side of everything. And then I would like to add emotional intelligence. So we need self-knowledge will mean understanding our emotions and how we manage our emotions. How do they affect our decisions, our lives, our day-to-day, our satisfaction, our happiness. And then the spiritual intelligence. Because if we don't understand where we stand as far as our spiritual development state, then you are kind of trying to navigate without a map. And this is one of the key messages for tonight. So, who am I? Or what am I, if you prefer? We know one thing. I'm not perfect. We are not perfect. So we know that much. But when I say we know that much, that's a lot. If you consider that tells you there's something about you that you don't know yet. And you need to know. So, the order of the day is then what? Like it says, identify yourself. Indicate or for yourself what are your shortcomings, what are the things that are not good yet, that need to be further developed. that need to be polished or even started. And this is what we're going to find. We are this bundle of emotions. We are a bundle of preconceived ideas, paradigms. We are a bundle of concepts that we construe over time that guide our lives. And but we do have a number of good things as well. We are not starting today. We have already managed to grow to a point where here we are, and after so many incarnations, after so much we have worked on that so far, and that takes us to this, which is we've got to understand our high self-consciousness, our true self. That's really what matters at the end of the day. So, what is it then we need to know about ourselves and why? In this picture you were seeing stones and animals and this part of this picture that shows the development of man. We are thousands of years old, and that is really playing lowball here when I say thousands of years old. Our planet was created 4.6 or 5 billion years ago. Was the primates came, has been here or were here 60 million years ago. So this same planet, as you know it today, one day was a primitive type of world. For those that understand the difference between primitive and the world where we live today, which is a step above that, a big step above. And the man like we know it today, the Homo sapiens, us, we've been around for 150,000 years. So we are very old, but actually not old enough, because we still have much more to go than we have gone so far. It's a long, long journey. Leon Denis said that the soul sleeps in the rock, dreams in the vegetable, gets agitated in the animal world, and then awake in a man. Today we're not going to explain that, but before we became an individual, that before we're created by God as an individual, our intelligent principle has been learning at stages that we don't even understand how it works. Out to say that we are right now the sum of millions of years or billions of years of development in one way or the other. So what's the status of our spiritual development? That's really what matters to us, because as the spirits, we need to understand where we stand. If we have an idea where we want to go, then you need to understand where you stand today. Because we're going to go from an A, B. If you know B, you need to know A. Otherwise, you're not going to cross that bridge. So we were reborn to have an opportunity to grow spiritually, morally. I was in one of the slides here before we even was talking about that we are spirits that are using this particular body in this particular incarnation, which, as we know, doesn't look the same any day, and one day it looks beautiful. 60 years later, it's not so beautiful until that goes away, and our spirit doesn't go away. That's when we start to think about, okay, what do I want? Where is my next stop? Well, and I hope you start to form an idea why it's so important that that you understand where you stand as a starting point. We're starting here right now, again and again and again. We have started long ago, but every day is an opportunity to restart, because you can never stop. If you stop, you just, okay, you stagnate. And that defies the whole purpose of life. So we started, as we know, according to Kardec and the spirits, we've been created simple and ignorant. And at the beginning, man only had instincts. That's all we had. So if you can imagine, you know, it's even more difficult to imagine, you know, it's really very difficult to imagine that one day, right after or soon after our creation, we were just, you know, a bunch of instincts like a dog. And then, as we develop, we then started developing our sensations. Sensations are those, sensations are not feelings or sentiments. Sensations are those that are identified through our body, through our sensory system. So you know when you are hungry, for example, and that's because your body is telling you you are hungry, you need food. And then finally we start to develop the sentiments, of which love is the last one, or the greatest one, and also the last one to be, let's say, finalized. You cannot really finalize that sentiment that's called love before we finalize all the rest of it. All right, our brains mirror our minds. So, for science, this is a big issue, because there's this big debate on how, you know, the brains develop thoughts, for example, right? As if our thoughts, who we are, what we think, depended on our brains, our physical brains. So that, for us, is a no-go. We know much more than that. Not just we, but many other people from many other origins and religions, etc., know that it's the other way around. Our mind dictates what the brain is going to, the brain is going to work, what it's going to do. So it started to be developed, you know, during the first. If you can say, you must have heard about the trino brain. You know, even I heard this here from, I forgot now whom was talking about it. Maybe Umberto Fabri was talking about it. So you can think about our brains in three big chunks. One of them is the reptilian side. That's totally automated, reflexive, and ready for rapid responses, what somebody calls collective consciousness. So in that side of our brain, which is really the base, here in the base, you know, if you can imagine a snake, for example, and imagine, you know, the head like this. So this is all they had, you know, that part of the brain. They don't have the rest of it. And that's reflexive, that's automated. So whenever it makes a decision based on what's programmed there, it doesn't think, in other words. It doesn't make a conscious decision because it doesn't have yet the other parts of the brain. And then the next phase, a big phase of development, came with the mammalians, right? Then we started to get the ability to have memory and have emotion and social behavior. You know, that was part of the brain that's right in the middle, that's where our amygdala is, which is our is that system that allows us to differentiate risks and rewards, for example. It tells you when you are at risk. It alerts you. It's our alarm clock, alarm system, I'm sorry. So it triggers the rest of your body based on whether the body needs immediate response, or or sends the information to the upper part of the brain whenever a response needs to be thought through. And then, of course, we have the primate, and then the humans. We started, with the primate. When the rest of the brain, which the upper part, was developed, including, for those that are interested in this, if you look at those photos of primates, etc., even our minds had to be expanded to accommodate the size that required to accommodate the expansion of our brains. But with that, last part that was created, I don't know if there's more to come, maybe next world. But for now, that's all we know. And that last part is the part where allow us really to be human, because we can think. And we can not only can have memory, but we can think and make rational decisions, or decisions based on our emotions, one way or the other. We can think through what we do. We started to actually have our free will at that point. Why is that important? Why am I talking about this? I want you to know one thing. If you know how you work, how your mind works, and what it takes to change anything that's in your mind, from your faith to your behaviors, whatever, you need to know how it works. And that's part of that background. You're going to see that the way the information is saved in your brains by the mind, and then you know how to change that, hopefully you're going to feel more better prepared to then go ahead and make the change that you want to make. Because, it's very simple for us to look at another person and say, well, you shouldn't do this. You have, yesterday, actually, in another settings, somebody was talking about we have to wake up in the morning, radiant and thanking God for another day and this and that and that and that. And some people don't do that. How come? And then I said, well, some people just cannot do that. It's not wired yet to do that. That's why we need to love each other and work with each other to help that other person to start learning how to wake up in the morning in the right mood. It's not automatic like that. We think everybody can think like we do, can do what we do, can take actions like we do, but that's not true. Okay, what about our memories? Where are they located? Well, what you're not going to see because it's so small, but it says, let me tell you what it says. Here is our brains, and if you can think for a moment that the brains and the mind are same shape, okay, which is not true, but let's think about, let's admit that for the sake of tonight. Then you're going to have on the top the conscious part of our mind, and then underneath you have the subconscious and the unconscious part of our mind. 90% of the day, we are driven, we make decisions, we do what we do automatically under the control of our subconsciousness, the subconscious part of our mind. And that's an information that's not new. You probably heard about that before, but sometimes it's very difficult to grasp, to understand. So 90% of my day, I'm just working automatically like a robot? Yes. And that's scientific. But it's not just scientific. It's cited by Joana de Angelis as well. And then in this purple part of this here, in the subconscious part of the mind, that's where the amygdala is. And as I said before, in many instances, for example, the car ahead of you stops and you're coming behind him, you're going to automatically try to stop. You're not going to think about whether or not you should stop. You just step on the brakes, right? If something comes, at you, you're going to do something to avoid that thing hits you. So that's automatically. Sometimes you leave home and get to the workplace, and then you don't even know. It's almost like you had not been there for the whole trip. You're doing everything automatically. Well, but that's one part of it. The other part of it is we react many, many, many times during the days automatically to other people as well. And so somebody comes to you and says something that you don't like. You may give him a response that you don't like either. It came directly from your subconscious. And the subconscious doesn't have to think, so it's much faster than the conscious part of your mind. And then you go home and say, why did I have to give him that answer? That was wrong, but that's too late. You were just under the influence of your subconscious. So then the answer is, it's going to be in the conscious side. The short-term memory is going to be there, and then the long-term memory is going to be in our unconscious side of our mind. Right? And here, if we look at the soul, then we have the subconscious and the conscious. And the conscious part, you're going to deal with what you're dealing with at this particular moment, like right now, thinking about or trying to understand what I'm saying. You're processing that in your conscious part of your mind. And then once you process that, you don't keep it for a week. You just save it automatically to your subconscious. And you're not going to remember it unless you want to remember it, or something else makes you remember that. So here's another way to see where is our memory in terms of conscious and unconsciousness. So what you see here, you can read it, but for example, creativity is in the unconscious part of our mind. Emotions, protection, automatic body functions, that's all part of the unconsciousness. While in the purple area, the conscious side, you're going to have planning, you're going to have the willpower. So you have your willpower in the conscious side of your mind after you do your work of thinking through what you were trying to handle. So critical thinking, whenever you're doing you're thinking through some sort of a problem, so you were using your operating mind. If you think you're PC, so there's that 4 giga RAM, right? And short-term memory, and judgments, those are all in the conscious side of our mind. Okay, so what is the status of our spiritual capacities? Okay. So as we said before, who you are today is what you have managed to develop so far. You have become what you worked on, what you saved, what you decided to believe, right? Your behaviors reflect your values, and those values and beliefs have been construed over and over time. We never, don't forget, at some point, at the beginning we're talking about we're very old as far as your spirit. Just think about it. If we didn't have our memories from the past, everything that we learned in previous incarnations, right? So we would all be here, with like a clean plate and no memories from the past. We would be more or less the same. Either everybody's spiritist or everybody's something else. We would kind of be about the same type of a person in terms of reaction, in terms of your thinking, in terms of your faith, and how you do parenting, and how good of a son or this or that. So everything would be more or less the same. What makes us different is that we have brought with us, as part of our spirit, our past that determines, or contains the information of who we are. And we are whatever we managed to accomplish so far throughout the reincarnations. And then we are here to work on what then? We are here actualizing whatever is engraved, whatever is saved in our subconsciousness or in our spirit. Okay, so this is very important. So when we talk about making progress in this life, we are saying, okay, what is it that represents who I am right now, and what is it that represents who I want to be? The first part is there in your subconscious of your mind. And it is there governing your day-to-day today. And by improving, by growing, it means that you want to change what's in there. Who you were up until now, or who you have been up until this moment. And sometimes I like to say there is the old one of us, and there's the new version of us. The new version will contain what you want to be. But it may not, and normally is not, what you have been and what you still are, based, on what is saved in your subconscious. So, and then you need to do what? Update it. And then once you update it, it's going to go all the way to the next incarnation, then to the next. And it's in constant update. When we grow and we update it, it's there forever. So you build up always. And so the brain structures, what you see here are those trillions of neurons that we have in our mind. And when everything we know, and let's say we have faith in God, that thing, is in our mind, but it's kind of stamped in your neurons. And then there's this thing in science that says neurons that fire together, wire together. When you say, I love you, you cannot say it, but, a certain number of neurons will be lighting up. They are going to be working together, always like in a program or a computer. Mm? And it gets there, and it's called the plastification. And we're going to explain that in a minute. But the important thing here to know is everything who you are and your reactions of what you're going to say, how you're going to think, how you're going to react, how you're going to resolve a problem. It's already programmed in there based on your past, based on your previous experience. So if you want to do anything different, you have to have a way to stop, rethink, and then do using what I called before, a minute ago, the new you. So all of a sudden you decided that you're not going to be such an aggressive person anymore. But your normal way, day to day, is to be aggressive. So if you don't want to be aggressive, you have to stop what's going to come out automatically and give a response based on your new you. And when you do that for several times, consciously, it becomes your new truth and goes back and adjusts the program. So next time, it's going to come out all right. So, well, is this complicated? Yeah. Well, actually, you don't have to understand that. in detail. What you have to understand is, you can think of yourself as a PC computer, okay? So you program it in such a way that every time you use that to calculate your, I don't know, your finances, okay? And all of a sudden, you have a new line in your account or whatever, a new bank account. You have to go back there and then in your computer and add a line in there. And same thing here. If you want all of a sudden to become more, let's say, more of a good person in a given way, you have to go and say, well, how am I programmed to react right now? And then, a good example is, well, I hear about this volunteerism. I like to become a volunteer here at KSSF, but I really don't know how to do that. I don't even know if I want to do it, but I'll try. So you come here for a month, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you are doing this with pleasure. It becomes natural to you. Right? Okay. So, talking about the new and the old of us, can we see the old in us, in you? Can you see the old version of you? This is really acquiring that self-knowledge. What is the old me? Well, you see here, for example, in this picture here, a guy that's, today's guys are checking on Google what he's going to do with this, but, dressed like, thousands of years ago. I thought that picture was interesting because it does talk to us what it is. You may live in a new world, but with old ideas, old ways of doing what you want to do to accomplish what you want to accomplish. We still, in the world, believe in war, okay, for example. Well, then comes this one of the questions you're going to ask yourself, as since we are here at the turn of the year. Here's 2017. What am I seeing in my mirror? The new year, new me, or a new year in same old me? All right. So well, it's too early in the year. I guess I'm still the same old me. Well, okay, I'll buy that. However, how do you want to end up, the year? Say old me, that then gets carried over 2018 and then 2020 and go on. Or you say, well, it's probably a good time for me to update my software and get rid of the old me. It's not working anymore to my satisfaction. Well, what are the things then when you say, do you see the old in you? Do you see how you behave, act in relation to impulses? Are you too impulsive? Again, going back to yesterday's meeting, the person said, oh, every time somebody comes and says something wrong to me, immediately I tell them everything that person needs to know right away. I'm not going to keep that. Right? So those are impulses. Aggressiveness. So it's very, we have people that are very aggressive. Are we aggressive? Or have we evolved to the point where we believe in dialogue, where we believe in psychology, where we believe in our ability to talk, to convey a message that may change the whole situation? Stubbornness, non-acceptance. That's a very common issue, particularly when it comes to accepting others as they are. So, which side of the fence am I? Accepting people for whom they are, or I'm still the one that dictates what I'm going to accept or not? What's acceptable for me? That comes out in several different ways. The way you respond to the person, the way you take a criticism, the way you even take a comment of any sort. non-forgiveness. Are we still in that side of the fence? Competitive mind we have, so we are here to compete with each other, or we're here to help each other. Mental conditions, personality traits, and egocentrism. You know, those are kind of things that when you say, do I know myself? And then you say, well, how am I doing relative to? And then you have this and a much longer list of things that you want to check and see where you are. And then you say, okay, New Year old me or New Year new me, what is my objective for this year? Okay, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. That was said by Aristotle, you know, before Christ, of course. And when I read this, you know, it takes a little time for you to digest this. How come knowing myself is the beginning of all wisdom? But I guess you know, after some thinking, I guess you're going to come to the conclusion that if you don't know you, you cannot improve yourself. So if you're going to try to improve the person that you idealize, right? That person does not exist. Unless you know yourself and you work on yourself, you are wasting time. You're not going to get to that wisdom level that you need because you cannot see anything. This idealized version of yourself does not exist. So how can you improve it? So knowing yourself is the base of of your improvement. The high-minded man must care more for the truth than for what people think. So it's the same guy talking here, kind of by explaining a little bit what he meant to say. Okay, can we really see our issues? Well, first of all, we'd better find them out. We are not perfect yet. And if you want to be better, if you are not happy or satisfied with who you are, then the question is, if I'm not perfect, what is not perfect in me? So what part of me, you know, I'm mostly good, but what parts of me are not yet the way I want it to be? Right? So that's a key question and a key concept as well, because it's very easy to say, oh, nobody's perfect. Oh, yeah, true. Do you know what parts of you needs improvement? Oh, that I don't know. Then how are you going to fix anything? Beware of the obstacles that does not allow you to see, recognize, and accept the issues, because the reason we don't see our issues is because of, number one, pride. We're too pride to see, or we are too much selfish to admit that we do have a problem, or our inclination to see or hear what we want to. So this is an interesting aspect that was recently, there was an article about it. So you hear me based on what your ego is prepared to take or accept, right? So you're not really here with your heart absolutely free of bias and totally open. You know, it's not everything that you're going to understand, because some of the things, if you understand, that's, you know, your ego is not going to buy it. And that means you're going to have to change. You're going to have to admit to your partner that you have a problem. So then there's the egotistic reaction, no proper consideration or openness. So we, you know, a person that is a narcissist, for example, right? He doesn't hear anything. You know, he's just listening to, like listening to a noise, and it goes from, you know, here and goes out there, and that's the end of that message. And those are obstacles for us to have a better understanding of who we are. Some clues on that we can, you know, just very few, but some clues that's going to help us get started at least on this this journey of self-knowledge. One of them is, are you or are we the Mr. Know-It-All? So I know everything. Or Mr. Always Right, I'm always right. Normally it's the husband, right? That is like that, not the wife. But one of them is, one of them knows everything. So if you know everything, guess what? You don't need to know anything more. So then you close yourself to anything that's new. You were not even open to consider a potential alternative that could be even better, because you already know it. So yesterday again, because yesterday was such a rich meeting we had, one person will say, well, I have to do my things at home when he's not there, because if I tell him what I'm going to do, then I'm going to get a lecture on how to do it. And I don't want that. No need to listen the whole sentence or question. So if you're that type of a person, you need to do some thinking. You cut the person off, and because you already know what he's thinking, what he's going to say, and what the answer should be, even before he finishes the question or the whatever he's saying. You are reactive and not responsive, right? What's the difference between reactive? It goes back to what we were saying before. 90% of the times, if we are not mindful, if we're not on the moment, okay, you're gonna just, if you're listening because you have to, and then you're just gonna give an answer that comes out automatically. That's reactive. And that could be, if your level of aggressiveness is high, your answer could even offend the other person, because that's what what's programmed over there right now on how to react. Being responsible is provide a response after listening, considering, thinking, and then saying. That's completely different. And also considering the person's, what is the meaning of what's really she's saying or he's saying? What is motivating that person to say what he's saying? Right? Because over and over and again, I keep talking about that we need to listen to sentiments, not words. The words, we're not good with words. We're really bad with words. We need to, through conversation at home, we need to pay attention to what kind of a vibration, what is the emotion, what is the message behind the message. Why is she or he saying that? Maybe he is in a difficult moment. Maybe the person that's saying what he's saying is not really thinking through it. It's confused. Maybe it has to do with a trauma from the past, but we take it personal, because we listen to the words and not to the sentiments. So there's a huge difference between a conversation between ego and ego, ego to ego, and heart to heart. Fundamentally different. The second one, heart to heart, I'm saying, I'm here to understand what you're trying to tell me and what motivates you. And I'm going to give you an answer that's going to come out of my heart. Well, then St. Augustine, said, remember we're talking about clues, and St. Augustine has this formula that says, do what I used to do while living on earth. At the end of each day, I would interrogate my consciousness, revisit all I did in that day, and ask myself if I had missed any of my obligations, and if anyone could have reasons to complain about me in that particular day. And that's how I got to know myself and see what parts of me needed to be worked on. So you're going to see later on, time is flying, we're going to have to rush, but you're going to see that St. Augustine here at that time was talking about that what we need to do to change anything in our minds. It's not reading a book about anything. It's really working on that consciously. Okay, actualize, don't improve. Don't improvise, I'm sorry. So when you are trying to change those billions neurons that fire together, work together, that forms how you respond to things, information is just the start. What is going to actually make a change in your program is when you read, you listen, observe, analyze, and then you decide. Then you started to believe in it and then practice it. You have to practice whatever you're trying to do. Then one day you're going to see it happening naturally. So if you go to the St. Francis beautiful parade that says it's giving that you receive, for example, right? Well, the thing is, we only learn how to give. By giving is not really by saying we are going to do that. So what you learn and aggregate to your spirit is what you carry along forever. How do I find out more about myself? Well, again, if we're not perfect, what are our imperfections? And then you say, questioning ourselves may not lead to answer. This is the kind of thing that I was telling right now. Because if you, tonight as well, I found that speech about self-knowledge very interesting. Let me question myself as to what is wrong with me. You're not going to find anything. You may come to, to perhaps some hypothesis. You have to review your actions like St. Augustine did. Think about others' reaction. Analyze what you disapprove of. Because, in every day, we are going to have a situation where we had to make a decision, or in a conversation something didn't go right. Have to go back and review that, analyze what didn't work, and what could be done better tomorrow. What do we hear from other people about us? So it's, we hate to hear criticism, for example. Not that we're going to invite criticism 24/7. However, some of those criticism, I think it's worth taking to the pillow and say, is there a basis for that? Is there any chance that I need to review that? What baggage we carry from the past? You see, this is something. We are here and we think we're grown-ups and we know everything that we need to do, how to drive our day-to-day and everything else. But we have traumas sometimes. We have learned the stuff that's no good and we still do it today. Right? So what baggages do we carry from the past that requires? And the way you're going to find out is by the things that don't work well in your life. And then at that point, you're going to question yourself, how come what is this aggressiveness? Where does it come from? What is my predominant mood state? Are you irritable all day long? Or you have this nice, smooth mood all day long, all seem to be fine. And you are always smiling, right? They are clues, very important clues to what, may be affecting your happiness level and affecting other people. Do I have the capability to feel sentiments like remorse, compassion, regret? And am I good at saying genuinely, I'm sorry? If you're not the kind of a person that feels remorse, talk to me after. Do I have a good history of keeping friends for a long time? That's the other thing. Some people say, "Oh, I have this group of friends that goes all the way back to when we were in our preschool, whatever." And some other people say, I really don't have any friends. I just met, such and such. let's party, but that's about it. Well, why is it that you don't keep good friends for a long time? Do I usually listen to understand without interruption or jumping to conclusions? We discussed that. So main takeaways from tonight, as before somebody shuts us off here because it's 9:30. As the spirits, we are work in progress with a real long history, but an even longer way to go. So we have to keep that in mind, that we have to work on us, because we are not going to die. We're going to have to live with us for a long time. Knowing ourselves is necessary to recognize where we stand at the moment in our long spiritual journey and what the next steps should be. So, of course, we are all here because we do have a pretty good understanding that it is important to think about our future, the future of our spirit. We can only update or advance our spiritual state by practicing new and better habits, reflecting a new and better understanding. So the only way we can actualize and improve ourselves is by doing. Reading is good and mandatory, is necessary, but it doesn't do the job. That's why Jesus said, know the truth, and the truth will save you. Self-knowledge is the door to wisdom, like Aristotle said, and it is. If you don't know who you are, then it's like that trip without a map. It's like you believing that you are in a given direction just to find out that you got nowhere. So with that, have a nice weekend. Thank you. Thank you.